You wouldn't think a tractor could start a war, but mine did. It wasn't the old engine's fault. Not really. It was the woman behind the fence who decided that dirt, noise, and honest work had no place near her manicured subdivision. Her name was Mara Jennings, the self-proclaimed queen of the Maple Ridge Homeowners Association. And if I had to pick a single word to describe her, it would be relentless. The first time she yelled across the fence, I actually laughed. "You can't run a farm next to our homes," she barked, her sunglasses flashing under the morning sun. I'd been back from active duty for just 3 months then, still getting used to sleeping without sirens and rebuilding the small farm my father left behind. I'd survived night raids and roadside bombs overseas, but nothing prepared me for Marlowe with a clipboard. I came back for peace, the kind that smells like cut grass and diesel, the kind that reminds you of everything you fought for. My dad's old Massey Ferguson tractor still sat where he'd left it, rusty, stubborn, but alive. That first morning, when the engine finally coughed back to life, I swear I felt him standing there with me. But before I could take it down the field, I heard her voice again. "That machine's a violation," she shouted, holding up her phone. I waved it off, thinking it was just another nosy neighbor. I couldn't have been more wrong. Within a week, she'd sent me typed letters about visual pollution and unauthorized agricultural activity, each one signed with the HOA logo. They weren't worth the paper they were printed on. My property wasn't under their jurisdiction, but I started saving them anyway. A soldier learns early. You keep receipts. Then came the drone. I was mending a fence when it buzzed overhead, snapping pictures of my barn and tractor like some kind of paparazzi bee. 2 days later, those same photos showed up in their neighborhood newsletter with the headline, "New Neighbor Raises Safety Concerns." That's when I stopped laughing. Mara liked to present herself as the guardian of suburban order, the protector of property values. The truth was simpler. She was addicted to control. Everything about her screamed precision. Her pressed blazers, her bright red Lexus, her little dog that barked like it paid the mortgage. She needed to dominate something, and my fence line became her battleground. At first, I tried to stay out of it, fixed what I could, ignored what I couldn't. But every morning, she'd appear, snapping photos, yelling about dust drifting toward her patio furniture. One morning, she marched up in a neon tracksuit, pointing her phone at me like a weapon. "Do you have any idea how disruptive you are?" she snapped. I shut off the tractor, wiped the sweat from my brow, and said calmly, "Ma'am, this land has been farmland for 80 years. Always has been," she sneered. "Not anymore. This is a residential community now." "Then maybe you should have checked the zoning map before buying a house next to a cornfield," I said. Her lips tightened and she stormed off, heels clacking like gunfire. A few days later, I found a sign planted near the walking trail. "Caution. Dangerous farm machinery ahead. Report concerns to HOA President Mara Jennings." Her phone number printed in bold. I took a photo, time-stamped it, and dropped it into a new folder on my computer titled HOA Nonsense. It was filling up fast. The county zoning officer laughed when I showed him the letters. "She files complaints about everything," he said. "Umbrellas, mailboxes, now tractors." Still, I could feel the air tightening the way it does before a storm. And when Deputy Angela Booker, an old Army friend, now working for the sheriff's office, found me at the hardware store, she warned me straight. Be careful, she said. Marla's got friends on the zoning board. She likes to play dirty, document everything, so I did. I installed cameras, one over the barn, one near the east gate, and another hidden in a hollow fence post facing the road. I told myself it was just for peace of mind. Truth was, I didn't trust her. My gut, the same instinct that once kept me alive in places where trust got you killed, told me she was winding up for something bigger. I was right. It happened early one Saturday morning. The sun had barely cleared the trees when I heard tires on gravel. Too fast, too close. I looked up just in time to see her Lexus screaming down the private Emmett Road, dust trailing behind like smoke. Before I could even react, she slammed into the tractor's quarter panel. Metal groaned. Dust exploded into the air and she jumped out, screaming. He attacked me. He tried to kill me with that machine. I didn't move. I just stood there, arms crossed, watching her dial 911 with trembling hands and fake tears. Every second of her performance, the crash, the scream, the rock she hurled through my windshield, was being recorded on camera 3. When the deputy pulled up 10 minutes later, I almost smiled. Officer J. Cordell, a kid I used to coach in Little League, stepped out, taking in the scene. Marlo rushed over before he could even shut his door. He ambushed me, she wailed. He left that thing in the road on purpose. Cordell didn't say a word. He turned to me. You got cameras, Mr. Mercer? Sure do, I said, handing him a small flash drive. Covers the whole east gate. Time-stamped audio. He slipped it into his pocket and nodded. We'll review it at the station. Mara's face drained of color. What do you mean, footage? Cordell didn't bother answering. That night, I sat beside the dented tractor under the soft hum of cicadas. I'd come home looking for peace, but peace doesn't come free. It takes roots, patience, and sometimes scars. I thought maybe the crash would end things. I was wrong again. 3 days later, 2 county inspectors showed up with clipboards, claiming there had been an anonymous complaint about fuel storage. I led them to the barn, everything sealed, labeled, clean enough to eat off the floor. One of them chuckled, shaking his head. This is cleaner than most city garages. I smiled. Strike one. Then came a cease and desist letter from the HOA demanding I suspend industrial farming operations within visual range of community residences. I scanned it, filed it into my folder, and watched it burn to ash in the barrel behind the barn. Strike two. The next morning, graffiti appeared on my fence. Keep it quiet. Black paint, shaky lines, the work of a coward. I didn't yell or retaliate. I just repainted it, installed another camera, and logged the time. Evidence, not emotion. That was how you won wars. Quietly, Angela called again. She's tightening the net, she warned. Got people on the board, ready to back her up. I'm already ahead of her, I said. What I didn't tell her was that I'd found something huge. Late one night, buried in county records, I discovered that the HOA supposed authority over the Emmett Road had never been legally approved. The road wasn't theirs. It was private, which meant when Marlo rammed her Lexus into my tractor, she'd done it on property she had no jurisdiction over. I handed the paperwork to my lawyer, Jeff Carson, a high school buddy turned land use attorney. His voice crackled through the phone when he saw it. Dan, he said, she's hanging herself. Give her a little more rope. And she did. The weeks that followed were a blur of petty harassment. Lawn clippings dumped over my fence, drones hovering again, flyers posted around the neighborhood warning about unregulated machinery. But something unexpected happened. The neighbors started to question her. One woman emailed me a photo of the flyer with a note. Maybe we should stop harassing the only guy growing food around here. Another wrote, my son loves watching your tractor. Ignore her. Mara didn't take it well. Her voice grew sharper, her tactics bolder. She started driving slower past my gate, staring like she could burn holes through the camera lens. And then, one cold morning, she snapped. Her Lexus came roaring down the road again, faster than before. I barely had time to hit the brakes before she slammed into the tractor's steel panel, harder this time. The jolt rattled my bones. She stumbled out, phone already in hand, shrieking into it. He tried to kill me. He ambushed me with this death machine. Then, as if to prove her own madness, she picked up another rock and hurled it straight through the windshield. Glass exploded across the dashboard, catching the sunlight like diamonds. I didn't say a word, just looked up at camera 3 and waited. Cordell arrived within minutes, his cruiser rolling through the dust. Mara ran toward him, sobbing like she'd rehearsed it. He's dangerous. Arrest him. Cordell didn't even blink. Got cameras? He asked again. I handed him the new flash drive. All angles, time-stamped audio. He nodded. Understood. Mara froze. What do you mean, footage? He turned away. We'll review it before filing the report. That night, for the first time, the air around my property felt still, not safe yet, but steady. I sat under the awning with a thermos of black coffee, staring at the cracked windshield. The web of broken glass gleamed under the barn light like a badge. Sometimes you don't need revenge. Sometimes the truth does the work for you. But Marlowe wasn't finished. A day later, an email hit my inbox. Urgent community concern. In it, she accused me of poisoning neighborhood children with diesel fumes, lowering property values, and creating a hostile environment. I laughed so hard, I almost spilled my coffee. Forwarded it straight to Jeff, who replied within minutes. She's digging her own grave. Save everything. And I did. Every photo, every flyer, every ridiculous claim. The HOA nonsense folder was thick enough to have its own zip code. Then came the final straw. She filed a civil lawsuit against me for emotional distress and intentional interference with neighborhood harmony. Jeff called me that evening, laughing. She's suing you after she rammed into you. She just lit her own funeral, P. But Jeff had an idea. Let's check their financials. He said if she runs the HOA the way she runs her mouth, there'll be skeletons. He was right. A quick visit to the county clerk's office uncovered it all. Mara had served as president for 7 straight years. Well past the term limit, no elections, no invoices. Thousands of dollars in administrative costs with her signature on every check. It was fraud, clear as day. So I wrote a letter, 2 pages, plain English, no threats, just facts. Every incident, every video, every financial discrepancy. At the end, one line. The truth has deeper roots than any HOA. I printed 20 copies, 1 for every house in Maple Ridge, and delivered them before dawn. By noon, their private Facebook group was in flames. Is this real? One neighbor posted, she paid her nephew with our dues. Another wrote, She said the farm was illegal. Turns out she lied about the easement. Mara fired back online. This is a smear campaign by a hostile outsider, but nobody was buying it anymore. That evening, 3 HOA board members knocked on my door, each holding a copy of my letter. "We need to talk," said Glenn Thompson, the acting chair. We sat around my kitchen table, the smell of coffee filling the air. They admitted they'd never seen the financials, that Mara had kept them in the dark. I said quietly, "She didn't just try to ruin my farm. She used her trust to build her empire." Glenn nodded. "We're calling an emergency meeting." The following Thursday, I walked into the Maple Ridge clubhouse, the same place they'd once held wine tastings and HOA fundraisers. Now it looked more like a courtroom. Rows of folding chairs, neighbors whispering, the tension thick enough to chew. Mara burst through the doors, last, dressed in her trademark crimson blazer. Sunglasses perched like a crown, she slammed a binder onto the table. "This man," she began, stabbing a manicured finger toward me, "has terrorized our community. He runs unregulated machinery, endangers children, and refuses to comply with basic decency. I have been forced to take legal action to protect this neighborhood." When she finished, the room was silent. Not a single clap, not even a cough. Glenn turned to me. "Mr. Mercer, your response." I stood slowly. No binder, no theatrics, just a folder. "I didn't move here to start trouble," I said. "I moved here to take care of the land my father left me. It's been agricultural since the 1940s. I've never trespassed, never threatened anyone, but I've been filmed, harassed, and accused of crimes I didn't commit. And I brought proof." I set the folder down and slid out photos. Her Lexus crumpled against my tractor, the rock lodged in the shattered windshield, the flyers she'd printed, the emails she'd sent. Then I handed Glenn a flash drive. 3 camera angles of the collision and false 911 call, time-stamped, audio included. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mara's face went white. "Lies," she screamed. "He forged it." Glenn raised a hand. "The documents came from the county clerk's office." I looked straight at her. "This land was mine before Maple Ridge existed, and it'll be mine long after you're gone." The vote to remove her was unanimous. Effective immediately, she was stripped of all authority. Her shriek echoed through the clubhouse as she stormed out, heels hammering against the floor. The door slammed behind her, and that was that, or so I thought. 2 days later, a new envelope arrived from her lawyers. She was suing me again for defamation this time. Jeff sighed when I showed him. "She just doesn't know when to quit." The courthouse smelled of old wood and lemon polish. Mara strutted in like she owned the place. Same red suit, same smirk. Her lawyers painted her as a saint, a woman traumatized by a rogue veteran who terrorized a peaceful community. They talked about sleepless nights and psychological trauma while she dabbed fake tears. When it was our turn, Jeff didn't even raise his voice. "Your Honor," he said, "we have 3 angles of footage showing the plaintiff deliberately accelerating her vehicle into my client's tractor. We have audio of her calling 911 to report a fabricated attack. We have HOA financial records, public records, showing 7 years of misappropriated funds under her name." He set a flash drive on the clerk's desk. "Everything is time-stamped and authenticated." The judge played the footage. The crunch of metal filled the courtroom. Mara's 911 call echoed, her voice trembling with fake fear while the video showed her throwing a rock through my windshield. When the lights came back on, you could have heard a pin drop. The judge adjusted his glasses. "Ms. Jennings, are you claiming this footage is fabricated?" she stammered. He edited it. "These came directly from county investigators," he said flatly. "Are you alleging the county fabricated evidence?" Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Case dismissed with prejudice," he said, banging the gavel once. Then he turned to Jeff. "Counterclaims." Jeff stood. "Defamation, property damage, false reporting, malicious prosecution." "Granted," said the judge. "Plaintiff will pay damages, legal costs, and restitution. Furthermore, the HOA's financials are to be reviewed by the county auditor." The sound of the gavel echoed like thunder. Mara didn't look at me as she left. Reporters swarmed her outside the courthouse, but she shoved past them and climbed into her dented Lexus. A week later, a for sale sign appeared on her lawn. No farewell post, no goodbyes, just silence. Maple Ridge changed after that. Glenn and 2 other board members resigned, replaced by folks who actually cared. The HOA refunded residents for years of missing dues. The newsletters stopped reading like propaganda and started sounding human again. Neighbors who used to glare now waved. One older man brought me a tin of peanut brittle. Julie, the mom whose son loved watching the tractor, waved from the sidewalk with him by her side. Even Glenn stopped by the fence one morning. "We're rewriting the bylaws," he said. "Mind giving us a few pointers?" I grinned. "Sure, just don't knock before 9 a.m. But the moment that stuck with me came a week later. A boy, maybe 10, pedaled his bike up to the gate. A baseball cap too big for his head. "My dad says you fought a war with a tractor," he said, eyes wide. I laughed. "Something like that. Can I see it?" he asked, pointing at the old Massey Ferguson. "Only if you help me fix this bolt," I said. He climbed up beside me, and together we tightened steel in comfortable silence, the kind of silence that doesn't come from fear, but from peace. Looking back now, I barely remember the shouting, the vandalism, or even the courtroom. What I remember is the stillness afterward, the scent of diesel and soil, the soft hum of cicadas when the world finally stopped spinning in anger. Mara thought she could rule a community through fear, but fear doesn't last. Truth does. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that patience and evidence outlast noise and lies every single time. You don't have to shout to win. You just have to stand your ground and let the truth grow roots. So, tell me, what would you have done in my shoes? Drop a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from and whether you've ever faced down a bully who thought they could rewrite the rules. And if you believe that honesty and patience still matter in a world full of noise, make sure to subscribe, because there are more stories like this one waiting to be